It's all going down. Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the program, everybody. Welcome to the conversation. Let's get it started. All right, let's talk about Philadelphia politics. According to an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer, the headline reads, Internal documents shed light on Mayor Sherrell L. Parker's decision to end Philadelphia's racial diversity goals in contracting. A law firm hired by the city recommended Parker adopt a contracting policy favoring, quote, disadvantaged, end quote, businesses. Parker instead prioritized, quote, small and local, end quote, firms. So let's talk about this article in the Philadelphia Inquirer and why is Philadelphia's mayor adopting to end DEI or racial diversity programs, basically programs that through affirmative action were put in place decades ago to be able to help Black small businesses. Mayor Sherrell L. Parker has said her administration relied on expert advice from a top law firm when it decided to end a Philadelphia policy prioritizing businesses owned by women or people of color in city contracting, following recent court rulings that limited affirmative action style government programs in hiring and contracting. Quote, I call them my genius attorneys because they all clerked for Supreme Court justices and they handle the hardest cases throughout the country, end quote. City Solicitor Rene Garcia, the city's top lawyer, recently said of New York-based firm Hecker Fink. And we went back and forth, Garcia said, can we do this? Can we do this? What about this? What about that? Quote, close quote. But when it came to replace but when it came time to replace the city's old program with a new policy, the Parker administration didn't adopt all of the suggestions it received from Hecker Fink. Internal administration documents obtained by the Inquirer show. Hecker Fink attorneys suggested that Philadelphia replace its old contracting system with one that favors, now listen to this closely, socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. Notice the wording and how the law firm of Hecker Fink described it, quote, socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, meaning don't give the money to Black businesses, give the money to white businesses or Asian businesses. Why? Because they're the people that are downtown and making things happen for the city of Philadelphia. They're the individuals who are responsible for the commerce. They're the individuals who pay the most taxes. They're the individuals that keep the hub and flow of the city bringing in prosperity, economically, that is. Parker instead created a new policy favoring, quote, small and local companies, end quote. Now that language is very vague, and it's very vague for a purpose, because Parker doesn't want the current administration thinking or believing that she's helping Black businesses, because to infer that would mean that government dollars would no longer be coming forth into the city of Philadelphia. So the careful wording, small and local companies. That way they can't accuse her of favoring Black people. You know, Black politicians, and it's sad but true, they walk a very thin line. They're walking on a tightrope because too many individuals think that when people of color, especially Black politicians, when they take the reins, that they're going to favor Black people more than anybody else. Well, how about this? How about there should not be any favor whatsoever? Every and anybody who is qualified and who meets the acceptable standards and the requirements for receiving government funds for their businesses should be able to receive them regardless of color, regardless of gender. But you and I know that that is not the case because there's too much politics and politicking going on. Too many individuals they're sexist, they're chauvinistic, they're bigoted, they're racist. Because you all don't want to hear this, because you don't think it exists, because it's not happening to you. Is that why? Just like people don't believe that police brutality is real, but it is. Because it's not happening to your friends, your neighbors, your neighborhood, your associates, where you shop, does not mean that these problems do not exist. Because your associates and family members aren't discriminated against when they go to apply for a small business loan. Well, America works fine for me. Of course it works fine for you, because you're being favored. But it doesn't work fine for the marginalized individuals. It doesn't work fine for quote unquote people of color. It doesn't work fine for women, black or white, because the institutions don't want to lend them money because they don't think that women belong in business anyway. In this chauvinistic, male, all-dominated society, a strong, intelligent woman who has a great mind and business for business, who has an acumen to succeed, they don't think that she belongs there. Why not? Why can't she be a CEO? Why can't she be a great entrepreneur? Why can't she be an individual that can compete on the same living field as men? That's the problem with America now. Because they want to go back to the dark ages. They want to go so far back in time until time doesn't even recognize time anymore. And you see it systematically happening every day. But people are afraid to open up their mouths. They're afraid to talk. They're afraid to address it. Why? Because it's not affecting you. But when it starts affecting you, just like the crisis with the Somalis, now the Somalis want black people to help them when they've been talking against us and putting us down for the past 20 some odd years. They kept saying that they weren't black. They kept saying through their congressional representative, Ilhan Omar, we're only concerned about Somalis' interests. Well, what are Somalis if they're not black people? Oh, we're brown. We're not black like those blacks. We contribute more to America than the blacks. If it wasn't for black people, your racist, bigoted, brown behinds would have never come to this country to begin with. After our people have fought all the wars, been on the front of the civil rights movement, after they've been out there putting their bodies on the line, discriminated against, called every dirty, rotten name under the sun, after the black civil rights leaders have marched and protested and boycotted all around this country for civil rights, you get to come over here, and because you get some loans and things of that nature, now you want to degrade us? You must be out of your right mind. We're not going to sit down and go for that, and we're not coming to your rescue. Deal with it. Tell your congressional representative with the big mouth to solve your problem, because she's been a thorn in the side of the Trump administration, because she thinks that she can't be deported. She's a naturalized citizen. She's not a natural born citizen. There's a differentiation between the two. So Parker is playing a carefully, strategically calculated game here. City critics say the new policy indicates Philadelphia took the easy way out in the face of conservative legal attacks. There's nothing conservative about the Republican Party. I keep telling y'all that. They don't have any conservative values. They don't have any principles of morality. They're the MAGA party. There is no conservative party anymore. That party is dead. You either do what MAGA wants or they will eviscerate you and destroy you. Instead of fighting to preserve the spirit of the old program promoting equity and diversity in city contracting. Look, the woman already told you why she made the decision that she made. That's the problem. You all want somebody to always stand out there for you all and to fight the battle, and you don't even understand the legal ramifications that the woman has to deal with as the mayor of an extremely large city. Parker, however, is adamant that her, quote, small and local, end quote, policy will achieve that goal given that many companies in the city are owned by Black and brown Philadelphians who have faced discrimination. And that's a fact, Jack. That's a stipulated fact. There are many businesses in Philadelphia owned by Black people. And the reason why you don't hear about them because they don't get the same advertising dollars. They don't get the same publicity. They don't get the same airtime on television. They're not promoted like other uh, groups are promoted. Promoted. They have to fight for every little thing that they get just to survive. Tyrone Bowman live. I'll be right back after this quick break. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone Bowman live. I'm talking about an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer regarding Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle L. Parker's decision to come up with a different name and to pursue her agenda, in attempting to help individuals in small businesses. She made a decision recently to address this issue. So let's continue with this article as I've been talking. I'll pick it up from here. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, because this is a lengthy article and I want to have enough time to be able to talk about it with clarity, with fluidity of speech and intelligence, because that's how people are able to understand it. All right, I'll start right here. The differences between Parker's program and alternatives the city would have adopted are highly technical, but hugely important, attorneys and researchers who study government contract told the Inquirer. Critics say the new policy indicates Philadelphia took the easy way out in the face of conservative legal attacks instead of fighting to preserve the spirit of the old program promoting equity and diversity in city contracting. Parker, however, is adamant that her, quote, small and local policy will achieve that goal, even that many small companies in the city are owned by Black and brown Philadelphians who have faced discrimination. Quote, our small and local business program is our disadvantaged program, end quote, Garcia said in a written statement. Considering council's advice, the city determined that a small and local business program is the best way to incorporate social and economic disadvantage in a way that is objective, content neutral, consistent, demonstrable, and could be stood up very quickly, end quote. In other words, they are going to be fully compliant with President Trump's canceling of DEI / affirmative action based contracts. Really, they don't want Black people to have any money whatsoever. That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. And when individuals are put to the test and they're Black politicians in predominantly Democratic cities, and they're coming up against a MAGA Republican administration, they're always going to be under attack. No matter what they say or what they do or how much they comply, the bottom line is to disgrace and make the Democrats look bad. That's why they call them blue states. They don't even want to call them Democrats. Well, how about this? With all the name calling that's constantly going on in politics, that's why they have such a problem, because nobody is willing to sit down at the table of negotiation and intelligently come to a resolve in how to help everyday people solve their problems. How does all the bickering and the arguing going back and forth solve problems for everyday people? How does all the disagreement and name calling and insulting and cussing each other out solve problems for everyday people? How does it solve the gasoline problem? How does it solve the homeless problem? How does it solve the healthcare problem? Because Republicans don't intend to do anything when it comes to healthcare except to gut it, to destroy it, eliminate it, until it is basically nothing at all but a shell of what it was. Essentially, what they want to do, they want to revise it, restructure it, reorganize it, so people are forced to pay more money for health care. And in other countries, in other nations, they don't have a health care crisis the way they do here in America. So how is all the arguing and bickering going back and forth? How is it solving the grocery problem? It's not solving any of the problems that I'm talking about. You mean to tell me just because somebody has a small business and they're a Black person, they don't deserve to have the opportunity to present an application to receive money. This is ridiculous. No wonder things don't get passed. No wonder people are constantly arguing and cussing and fighting all the time. No wonder politicians can't get anything solved because they go in there with the mindset no matter what you say, what you propose, what you ask, the answer is we're not going to agree to it. And you're going to have to keep voting and throw people out of office and electing people until you get the right person or persons in there to do what's best for the populace of the nation. Oh, some people don't like this kind of talk, and it's fine with me. But Philadelphia has a problem too. I live in Philadelphia. I'm from Philadelphia. I grew up. I'm homegrown. So I know the complexities and the problems that exist in Philadelphia. The documents, which include confidential legal memos from Hecker and internal administration emails, show how top city officials attempted to navigate a new legal landscape after the U.S. Supreme Court in 2023 upended decades of jurisprudence on affirmative action and other race-conscious policies. Why did they do it? Because of one person, Justice Clarence Thomas. He's the problem. He used affirmative action to get all the way through school and to do everything that he do to achieve. He married the daughter of Senator Stanford. He was nominated by the first Bush, had a controversial hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee. In the end, they put him on the Supreme Court after the death of Thurgood Marshall. And he has done everything to destructively humiliate and to systematically eliminate any safeguards that black people had up until the time he took the court. And now the court is stacked with MAGA Republicans who are going to vote the way that they're told to vote, or else. What? You can type whatever you want to type in the comment section. I really don't care. But it's the truth anyway. Clarence Thomas is the one who is yapping and hollering and screaming about black people don't deserve affirmative action. He hates black people too much until he'd never had a black law clerk since he's been on the bench. All his law clerks are white. And he's dark just like this. Don't play with me. It's a stipulated fact. In early 2025, the law department provided a spreadsheet of line-by-line edits to the city's 5-year plan, a long-term budgeting document to remove language about racial and gender equality goals submitted by city department. They were forced to take them out. These clerks who clerk for the Supreme Court justices, who are now hired by the city of Philadelphia to revise, update, edit, take out, modify the long-term budgeting document, make sure it doesn't have any language about racial and gender equity goals. When the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity, for instance, wrote that its mission involved advancing racial equity, the law department simply wrote, quote, remove racial, as it did for several other agencies, because they don't want any problem coming from Washington, D.C. It's an all-out attack on black people in this nation. From history to books, our culture, our heritage, our ancestry, our war. I don't want to hear that crap about, well, they're not smart enough. They don't talk right. Really? What makes you all think that you're so bright yourself? What makes you think that you're more intelligent and articulate speaking than the average black person? If you can't succeed with your white privilege and you're always and hollering about at least we're white. Well, why are you crying and whining because other people are getting help? Why don't you use your white privilege and get everything you need like you've been doing down through the centuries in this country? This is the reason why there was and will continue to be a civil rights movement. This is the reason why black boycotting is so important. Don't do businesses with CEOs, CFOs, and COOs of major corporations that despise and discriminate through their policies against black people. How hard is that? It worked in the 50s, it worked in the 60s, it worked in the 70s, and it will work now if we unify as a people. But no, folk are not going to do that. Half of the populace will, because they want to run down to their favorite store to get garbage and junk and trinkets for ungrateful people. Spend all your hard-earned money that you slaved for and worked for, or however you got it, to buy gifts for ungrateful people. And Jesus, contrary to popular opinion, was never born in the month of December, and he most definitely was not born on the 25th of December. Yes, I said it. He was not born in December, and he wasn't born in the month of December. Read your Bible, pay attention. Read some historical books. So they made them remove that language out of the budgeting document. The edits signify a stark contrast to the city's approach under former Mayor Jim Kenney, who in 2020, operating under very different circumstances, instructed all departments to craft comprehensive racial equity plans. Now, he was an Irish mayor, and he did not cave in and bow down. And you know, when Jim Kenney said, we're not taking anything out, we're going to call it this, nobody said nothing. Nobody said anything to Mayor Kenney. And he served 8 years in Philadelphia. You see the differentiation between a white mayor and a black mayor? You tell the white mayor what to do. He said, the blank with y'all. Let me do what I want to do. I'm not taking nothing out. Let it stay in there. It's called racial equity plans. And they didn't remove it. And the money still came into the city of Philadelphia. You put a black mayor in power and you want the black mayor to bow down and do whatever she's told to do because she's black and she's a woman. That's why most men cannot handle strong women of power, because you want to dominate their mind and they're not going to let you. This is not the 14 and the 1500s anymore. We're in the 21st century. And face it, women have powerful positions of power. Whether the male chauvinistic society like it or not, in America is going to have a woman president at some point in time. Oh, it's true. To coin a phrase from a former wrestler, Kurt Angle. Oh, it's true. It's damn true. End quote. It's coming. There will be a woman who will occupy the presidency of the United States of America. When, I don't know. Which party, I don't know. But it's going to happen. Just as I told you all, and I'm consistent with what I say, the next male black president will come from the Republican Party. Why? Because they want to revamp and reshape and reconstruct and rebrand their image. At some point in time, they're going to nominate a black man. And he's going to win. So Jim Kenney refused to do what they wanted. There was no indication in the internal documents, which are primarily from 2024 and 2025, that Parker, the city's first black female mayor, or administration's officials were eager to make those changes. And no city officials appeared in the document to view the, quote, small and local policy as less aggressive or safer than the other options on Parker's disposal when she replaced the city's race-conscious contracting system. Well, I'm going to ask this question. Why are all these white real estate developers getting hundreds of millions of dollars to gentrify what used to be black neighborhoods? They shouldn't get that money either. You know the money's coming from somewhere, and it certainly isn't coming from their pockets. It's governmental funding. Just look around Philadelphia. Look at all the gentrification that has and will continue to take place. Hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions. And all these developers are white-owned construction companies. I think Turner Construction Company might be the largest, and they're unionized. You're not going to see that many black people. I mean, I've seen plenty of other people like Asians and Latinos and Mexicans working, but you don't see black people working because they're not going to hire them. Close them out, freeze them out, ignore them. Gentrification is a major problem. It's a major problem because once you overall a place where people used to live, and that was their comfort zone, and now it looks like someplace out of Better Homes and Garden, individuals have been out-taxed and outpriced. But they can get plenty of money. But for Wendell R. Stemley, president of the National Association of Minority Contractors, the mayor's choice was revealing. Quote, the cities that want to cave in on this issue without doing the hard work are just doing small and local race and gender neutral. Quote, close quote, Stemley said. The documents obtained by the Inquirer show that Hecker recommended the city abandon its decades-old contracting system. Now, this is a white firm telling the black mayor what to do. And the old contracting system was responsible for allocating more than $370 million each year in city contracts to historically disadvantaged firms due to the threat of potential legal challenges, as Parker and Garcia have said. How much of that $370 million actually went to black businesses owned by black people? Not much. But you see it in the Latino community. You see the money popping the ball around. You know darn well you don't move in there in 1 month, and then your store is filled to the rafters with everything that you need the following month, unless you're getting money from the city of Philadelphia. Latino businesses are prospering. Mexican businesses are prospering. African businesses are prospering. We're not dumb. We're not blind. We're not stupid. We're paying attention to what's going on. This is real. Systemic racism is real. Systemic bigotry in institutionalized business is real. And don't tell me because you have mostly all black city council and a black mayor that it's easy to get things done for black people. That is not so, because the power structure is still white-based in the city of Philadelphia that controls the purse strings. Yes. Go back in time, search the annals of history in Philadelphia. But they also show that the firm proposed replacing the policy with a system, quote, setting mandatory goals for hiring socially and economically disadvantaged businesses or persons, quote, a race and gender neutral standard based on the Federal Small Business Administration's 8 A in parenthesis, business development program. In other words, make it stricter, make it harder, make it more difficult, make the qualifications much harder for any black business to get any money. You saw what happened in Philadelphia when Mayor Parker said that they were going to build the new stadium for the 76ers downtown. Did you see the Asian business community come together? And they shut it down. Because they said that they contribute more to the economic prosperity in Philadelphia than black people. And she gave them money. This is not something I'm making up. This is a stipulated fact. These are the hard conversations that we have to have. Like the city's contract and policies, the federal program previously had a stated policy of aiding business owners who were members of specific historically disadvantaged groups, such as women and black people. But a 2023 federal court ruling in Washington, D.C. prohibited the Small Business Association, SBA, from presuming that members of those groups had faced barriers and required 8A applicants to demonstrate social and economic disadvantages. That's a crock of crap. You know they faced barriers. You know they're discriminated against. Listen up, all my brothers and sisters who are going to school and you're going to be coming out with your MBAs and your PhDs. And don't think because you have those degrees that the doors are just going to magically open up for you, because they're not. You're going to have to fight hard. You're going to have an advocate who knows how to advocate properly. Just because I'm going to become a lawyer and have a law degree doesn't mean that the world is going to greet me with open arms. But I'm an advocate. I know how to stand firm and be unwavering. I know how to maneuver because I have enough sense to know that a piece of paper does not get doors open for you. So my fellow brothers and sisters, when you graduate from the higher institutions of learning, don't be under any false illusion thinking that the doors are going to swing wide open and they're going to bring you in, because in order to give you a job, they're going to have to take a job away from somebody else. And you'll be coming into a hostile work environment already. Keep your street skills sharp. Did you hear what I said? I said keep your street skills sharp. Don't let your guard down. When you go to these white institutions, don't think that you're one of them, because you're not. All the proper talk in the world and correct pronunciation is not going to get you through these doors. You know the pressure our professional black athletes are under every single day. And granted, some of them make some dumb, stupid decisions. They're under enormous pressure by the white owners within the NFL and the NBA. I think Michael Jordan owns a team. They're under great pressure. Just play basketball. Don't talk about politics. Don't get involved in any black social causes. Go where we send you. Go to all the white places. Make sure that you're not in those other places where you can get in trouble. The city allowed the program to pass legal muster by not favoring race or gender groups, while still allowing the agency to consider whether each applicant had faced discrimination on an individual basis. Oh, Mayor Parker, you can't have it both ways. And I'm for the lady, but you can't have it both ways. Hecker, a litigation and public interest firm, suggests that Philadelphia adopt a similar approach. Of course, you're welcome in America. Of course you are. Welcome to America. It's going to be all right for you. The question is, would I be welcome in the United Kingdom? That's my question. I'm gonna have to take another mandatory break in a couple of seconds. Adopting mandatory goals for hiring socially or economically disadvantaged individuals or businesses defined along the same race neutral lines as in the SBA's 8A program would likely be defensible if challenged. Quote, close quote. Hecker lawyers wrote in a May 5 memo to the city. An internal administration memo analyzing the city's options on May 16th said that Hecker, quote, recommended taking a look at the federal SBA 8A business development program as a model. Wow. There are so many things going on in the world, but you have to address them. I am for anybody that wants to succeed. I don't care about the race, color, creed, faith, religion, sexual gender. If you're going to do what's right, I'm on your side. I'll fight for those that need to have an advocate and a voice for them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have to take a quick break. You're watching Tyrone Bowman Live. I'm talking about Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle L. Parker's decision to change the DEI policy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Tyrone Bowman live. I'm talking about an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer about Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker changing the city's diversity and equity contracting policies so that it is purportedly aligned with President Donald Trump's policies as well. So I'm reading this article and I'm offering commentary alongside of the written article as well. See, one of the problems that I see within business in America, there's too much emphasis placed on a person's racial ethnicity. If you have a product and your product is good and you know it's good, you can find a creative way to sell your product and you can get around all of this stuff. I'm going to give you an example. Years ago, there was a corporation called Parks Sausage. I guess it was an LLC. And the catchphrase was, "More Park sausages, Mom, please." No one ever knew that Mr. Parker, the founder and CEO of the company, was black because you never saw him. What did he do? He hired an all-white advertising firm. He had a mostly all-white staff. And he had a figurehead as the spokesperson or the president for the company out front. And this was during segregation and Jim Crow. And Mr. Parker became a multi-millionaire many times over. Be smart with your mind. When you have an entrepreneurial mind, you have an entrepreneurial spirit. And you can survive and make anything work irregardless of what people may say or think or conclude about you. I have to read this comment. We could do with having you over here in the UK, as the far right is gaining popularity here too. And we have speakers like you, they don't have your charisma. I don't think the UK can tolerate me. I'll just be honest with you and tell you, because I'm not going to be one of the individuals that's going to be polite in Parliament, because if you speak out of your neck in the wrong way to me, we're going to have a problem. Because if I'm going to represent people for real, I'm going to represent all the people of the UK. It's not just going to be the elite and the powerful and the blue bloods. It's going to be all of the populace. That's the problem in politics right now. The favorability factor is the reason why individuals are having the problems that they're having, because the voices of the minorities, when I say minorities, quote unquote, I'm not talking about color. I'm talking about individuals who don't have the privilege and the power from all cycles and walks of life to advocate and speak for themselves. See, I don't care about being a politician because I have a voice as an advocate to speak with authority on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. And if you're serious about becoming an entrepreneur, if you're serious about doing what is right, if you're serious, then you have an advocate who can advocate for you. But I'll become the worst nightmare for the obstructionists and those who stand in the way of progress. I don't care what color you are, what faith you are, what religion you are, what nationality you are. People got to learn how to work together in order to get things done. So I'm reading and dissecting this article. The executive order governing the city's old minority contracting program, which is aimed to award 35% of contracts to historically disadvantaged firms. Why would they even have to have that in place if there had not been systemic racism from the exception? I think Mayor Tate wasn't found racist during his reign as the mayor of Philadelphia. He darn sure wasn't trying to help any black people. They were put in place as safeguards so that the disadvantaged minorities would have a leverage to be able to start a business. Look at all the vendors, sidewalk vendors in the city of Philadelphia. They used to be downtown in Philadelphia a lot. Everywhere you went, you saw vendors. They still have some, but not like they used to. They're dispersed throughout the city and other parts of the city now. So those contracts expired at the end of 2024, and the city quietly ended it at some point earlier this year. Yeah, because they didn't want the controversy. Parker did not announce that the program had been discontinued or that it would be succeeded by her small and local policy until an Inquirer story published last month revealed the change. Because Parker did not want the publicity. She did not want the confusion that comes with it. The politicalization from the propagandists known as the news media. And you know how some journalists are when they get a hold of a story, they like to embellish it and lie for sensationalism. The key difference between Parker's program and the 8A model is that the city's new policy gives no explicit consideration for social disadvantage, prejudice, or cultural bias. Well, let me hit you to something right at the Inquirer. The element of surprise is the best way to get anything done. Anything that comes up in Washington, you all don't know about it until the program has been enacted. Y'all talk too much in the press. You tell every darn thing you know. And that's why folks don't want to talk to you all, because you want to be the first to get the story, the first to get the break, the first to be the leader, the first to report it, and you do more damage to something good in the name of responsible, incredible journalism. Someone talks to you about something off the record, and you take it off the record and put it on the record because your editor is putting pressure on you. I wouldn't do good sitting in a newsroom. You're not going to throw you. See, if I were in the news business, you can put me out on the street with the people. I don't want to be the anchor person. I don't want to be in the studio. Just give me my microphone. Give me a film crew. Give me all the feature stories where I can be in the street with everyday people. That's why I would best fit in, because I care about people. Garcia, the city solicitor, firmly pushed back against the notion that the city had ignored Hecker's advice on reshaping its contracting landscape and intended that the small and local policy will result in equitable outcomes because many of Philadelphia's small businesses are owned by people of color and have faced discrimination and other barriers to growth. Well, what is so hard about that statement when in fact it is a true statement? We're still fighting the same old causes that were fought long ago when I was a child growing up in a racially diverse, hostile Philadelphia. When men like Cecil B. Moore, Alfonso Dio, women like C. Dolores Tucker, Dr. Ethel Allen, Reverend Leon Sullivan, Georgie Woods, when men like Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff were pioneering of Philadelphia International Records, the barriers and things that they faced. Obstacles or hindrances that most white business owners never had to face. Remember the parody on Saturday Night Live when Eddie Murphy was there and he went undercover. They dressed him up, made him look like a white man, had the mustache on and the hair, and he was walking and talking like them. That's America. But you still have to find a creative way to move beyond the color barrier, and you will succeed. I will never allow race to become a crutch, a mental crutch, or a psychological crutch to hinder me from succeeding in this life. Never. Because I'm better than that. And you are too, if you put your mind to it. The city's small and local business program is more aggressive than an SBA 8A style policy in that it is broadly applicable to small and local businesses without creating unnecessary hurdles and confusion over the word disadvantage or requiring onerous paperwork for business owners to demonstrate their disadvantages, she said. Although Parker's new program is not exclusively available to disadvantaged firms, Garcia said, it has built-in elements of social and economic disadvantage programs like the Small Business Administration's 8A and U.S. Department of Transportation programs such as utilizing SBA business size style caps, examining years in business, examining employee count, and personnel net growth considerations. Now, I would say this to all my black brothers and sisters that are in business: make sure your paperwork is in order. Have all your paperwork in order. Don't have your stuff lying around in trash bags and brown paper bags, and when you go to apply for something, you dump all the stuff out on the desk and it's falling all on the floor. Make sure that you are organized, thoroughly organized, with your personal portfolio. And when you get the chance to make your pitch, talk from your heart. Talk from your soul. Give it all you've got. And if they deny you, at least you know you put it all out there. And you keep trying, and you keep trying, and you keep trying until you succeed. Talk to me. I'll show you how to do it. Stop trying to be out front all the time. Put the other people out front. Let them do talking for you. Send them to the boardrooms. Oh, they'll listen to them. But Andrew M. Perry, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, said that while the city may be intending to help disadvantaged businesses with its small and local approach, specifying that goal in writing is important, the mayor's executive order does not use the word disadvantage. They are different, said Perry, the author of Black Power Scoreboard, an examination of access to property, education, and business success. The downside of any approach that does not use some criteria for being disadvantaged is that you can ignore them. There is a history that suggests that you absolutely need some process to identify groups of people who have been ignored by the city. It's certainly not a given that you will touch those communities that have been denied opportunities in the past under small and local, Perry said. Parker's move to abandon the city's goal of prioritizing businesses owned by women and Black and brown people has become the largest flashpoint in the debate over the centrist Democrat mayor's approach to the new political reality under President Donald Trump's second administration, as critics like progressive city council member Kendra Brooks have accused her of caving to Trump. Well, which she has done. It's not an accusation, it's a fact. I said it's not an accusation, it is a stipulated fact. She's going along to get along. The mayor in Washington, D.C. said she doesn't want to be mayor anymore. She said, I'm out. She said, I'm not putting up with this stuff. Y'all can put somebody else in this mayoral seat. I'm gone. There comes a point in time when people get tired of the foolery and the foolishness. Learn how to play the game, get what you're going to get out of it, move on, set up your nonprofit corporation, and hit the ground running. Parker, however, said the city had little choice but to end the old system following Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, a 2023 Supreme Court ruling that prohibited affirmative action in college admissions and that has widespread consequences for race-conscious government programs. There were people who told us that leadership meant justifying the old law, Parker said at a recent news conference announcing the contracting policy changes. They said, forget about the Supreme Court ruling. Philadelphia should just continue functioning and operating its program, even if your law department and these genius lawyers at the Heckler who have clerked for Supreme Court justices recommended abandoning it. Now listen, Parker and everybody else. This administration is not going to be in power forever. What are you going to do when they leave? Revert back to the old program? No, because you've already made your decision. I want to take some advice from somebody to interpret the Supreme Court ruling right for some folks who have worked there. Really? Just because you worked there doesn't mean that the rulings that they made were justifiable. Because they were made against people under duress. People who have been historically marginalized and disadvantaged and disenfranchised based upon institutionalized systemic racism. Whether people want to believe it or not, whether you want to call it or not, it's a fact. Look at the rotten, terrible schools that I went to growing up and others like me. Thank God in our home, my mother was an education advocate. And I learned how to study independently outside of the classroom. Because I read every book in our local library before I graduated from high school. Don't worry about the faltering school system. Teach yourself how to think and act and interact with others. Parker also said she felt that the city's old system was broken long before the Harvard decision because it failed to achieve its goal of boosting the number of Black and brown and women and disabled business owners in Philadelphia. Really? Following the 2023 federal court decision, the SBA now requires applicants to submit social disadvantage narratives or essays, increasing administrative burdens and potentially favoring savior contractors. The U.S. Department of Transportation has a similar essay-based approach. We have heard from our businesses it is already too hard to do business in Philadelphia. These kind of additional requirements will exacerbate an already difficult and burdensome process, Garcia said. Meaning white people want to be able to come to Philadelphia without any problems regarding race. They want to get what they want without any hesitation whatsoever. Despite being a race and gender neutral federal policy, the current standard, which was adopted in President Joe Biden's administration, may still be challenged in court. The lawyers at Hecker Fink, however, believe that a Philadelphia version of the policy could withstand scrutiny. The next wave of conservative litigation in this space may target such programs, arguing that social or economic disadvantage is a proxy for race. So what? You're trying to rewrite things, and because you say it's that means what it is? No, that's not right. However, based on our assessment of the current legal landscape, the city would have a strong chance of defeating such challenges. Like many diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives cast as discriminatory by the president, the program has come under siege since Trump took office in January. On the agency's website, hyperlinks to guidelines on how companies can demonstrate social disadvantage have gone dead, and the Trump administration has launched an audit of the program in the wake of an alleged bribery scheme. I'm going to end this by saying this. And I'm going to do a video about it. It's time to boycott all these white, racist-owned businesses. And you want to break them down? You don't have to argue. You don't have to fuss. You don't have to cuss. You don't have to beg to be accepted. Just boycott them. The power of boycotting works. Stop being afraid to use it, because they'll use it against you. I said they will use it against you and boycott you and all your Black businesses in a heartbeat. But you're afraid to use that leveraging power. Think about it. Never surrender. Never quit.